Of the Somerset Berkeley Regional School Committee at 6:01 p.m. due notice having been posted. Pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions may be made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. We'll do a roll call of members present. Ms. Ferreira?
Present.
Ms. Ashley?
Present.
Mr. Pasternak?
Present.
Mr. Borges?
Present.
Ms. Giardini? And the chair is present. Also with us this evening are our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Jeffrey Schoonover, our Chief Financial Officer, Raquel Pellerin, our Principal, Dr. Susan Brailsford, and our Recording Secretary, Robin Vaccaro. I'd ask to please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd ask if you could actually please remain standing for a moment. We'd like to take this time to note that the last time we were here, we had the great privilege to recognize Mr. Bill Aguiar, teacher, guidance counselor, director of the Evening Summer School and Kids Summer Learning Program. We all share in our sadness at his recent passing. I know many of us will be attending his services. So at this time, I would just ask us all to take a moment of silence in recognition of his long and distinguished career and wonderful life. Thank you, everyone. Please note that the next regularly scheduled meeting of this committee will be held on Tuesday, January 20th, 2026, at 6 p.m. here in the Somerset Berkeley Regional High School Library. And the first item on the agenda this evening under Student Teaching and Learning is our Student Representative Report. Mr. Borges, Mr.
Good afternoon, everyone. How are we? Great. It's lovely to see all of you again. It's felt like forever since last time I've seen you. It's been very busy. Tonight I'd like to highlight something that students have come to me to talk about, being the cell phone policy. The Massachusetts State Congress, the Senate voted in favor of fully banning cell phones in schools. However, the House still has plans, with the bill to vote on it. So I just wanted to ask you guys, actually, if you guys had any plans of coming into the next year, any plans of making the phone policy stricter, or keeping it the same, or waiting to see the decision before changing anything. I can say as a student, the phone policy now has definitely been a success. If the goal is to make cell phones less used in class, it's definitely done a great job. So.
Adrian, do you think, just for the benefit of folks at home who might not be familiar, could you just explain how the current policy works in a typical classroom?
Sure, absolutely. So, as you walk into class, you are expected to put your phone into the cell phone tree, which holds all your cell phones, so it is not accessible to you during class. And then, if you leave the classroom for any reason to go to the bathroom, nurse, principal's office, you cannot take your phone with you. It must stay in the phone tree, and the phone can only be used during lunch, passing periods, and once you leave. So that's the expectation as of right now. What was that?
Students are studying online for
Yes, that as well. I don't have study right now, so I'm not familiar with that.
I think in terms of the committee, I think we've just sort of had very informal check-ins regarding the policy. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Schoonover or Dr. Brailsford. I think what we've heard is that the current policy does seem to be working pretty well, but obviously our hand may be forced by the legislature. I think at this point our position has been to wait and see, but I would ask Dr. Schoonover or Dr. Brailsford to weigh in on that as well.
Well, we have discussed it formally and informally. We've seen schools that have implemented yonder pouches with much success. I know I was speaking with the Taunton superintendent. That was something that was implemented this year, and by all accounts, it was just a remarkable change in the culture of the school in terms of focus on learning, having the distractions out of students' hands during the day. I've heard from other superintendents where they've either gone beyond a pouch role or something similar, and the impact is usually pretty quick and pretty substantial. With that said, I think things actually have improved at Somerset Berkeley over the past few years without having to go down that path. My times in the classrooms, it's fairly rare, particularly compared to Dr. Brelsford, so I'd like to hear what she has to say, but I've seen a change. Not that it was ever a really significant problem here, but I haven't seen the devices in classrooms like I did in years past. There's certainly more of a focus on learning and without having the distraction there to this point. So, something is working, and I don't know if it requires a significant shift, but we do know the impact, the negative impact that the attachment to devices and access to social media has on students. And the schools that have implemented it, not only have they seen that shift to learning, as I said, but the other social emotional components that go along with it, there have also been significant decreases there. It is something that is worth considering as we wait and see what the state ultimately does. They may just require a policy that forces local educational agencies to create a policy like we already have, without having to go with a full-on ban during the school year. So we'll have to see what the state, how strictly want to enforce this and what's the way it's else with anything that
No, I mean, I agree with Mrs. Andrews in particular in light of many of the Department of Education policies that have come down lately. I think it's important that we wait and see what they have to say before we walk down the road. But I do think that we've made a huge push to enforce the policy that we have more in the past 2 years, particularly this year than we have in the past, particularly in the hallways. I've sent a few emails out, gentle reminders to students, reminding them of the policy. We are in class, no matter where we are. We're in the hallways using the bathroom, we're still in class, so the cell phone policy is in existence. But I am a believer in this building is supposed to be preparing students for their life after Somerset Berkeley, and their life after Somerset Berkeley will always include one of these. So there's appropriate times to use cell phones, and there's appropriate times not to use cell phones, and that's my philosophy of this year, what we're trying to train students to do. When we're in class, we're supposed to be in class and focused on learning, we're in class focused on learning. We have a break, lunch for my students, lunch is recess. That's the only time they have. If they choose to go on their phones and that's their break, I mean, for some of us, right, we're looking at YouTube videos and that calms people down. Some people shouldn't use the book, people lose track of time. But I think there's a time and a place, and that's what we're trying to instill in the students this year. Is there's proper times, there's not proper times, and we've done a really big push with our faculty. And I see huge changes from what was going on a few years ago. So I'm happy with it.
I think the only thing I would add is that obviously, as with many of things that come from the state, if this were to become a requirement, there's a budgetary impact on that. which I'm sure will be unfunded. So we may, I think it would be wise for us to start to at least explore what that impact might be if we were required to do this, including for this next upcoming budget, because we may not have a choice. But so I think that's our approach at this point. I think student input, and I know that you have multiple avenues in addition to this for providing that would be important.
So I'd like to pass it off to Isabella.
Thank you. Felicity Milne. Other news other than self-policy, at our last meeting for the Student Advisory Committee, we discussed possible new courses being added to our curriculum. There was an interest in different arts and APs, especially financial literacy. We talked about courses for already existing extracurricular clubs, such as COSA and academic primary book. There was interest in science and also trades and life skills. If you want me to go more in depth, like what specifically some of those classes might look like, I can. There was interest in welding and trade classes for our APs. Students wanted to see possible thoughts about AP Western Civilizations, AP Comparative Government, AP Physics, which, not to be biased, I personally would be a fan of. And AP Human Geography. It's not here, it makes me so excited. Very passionate about this. And then there are classes as well as mythology and woodworking, number theory, numerical analysis, general art that's not focused, AI literacy and digital citizenship, and then culinary class, life and relationships, and life skills. So those are just some interesting classes. And then also, I've seen students talking about language requirements and potentially looking at adding ASL or American Sign Language to our courses, as well as possibly French, rather than just the current Spanish and these offerings. And then graduation requirements. There's also talk about financial literacy, like filing taxes, credit cards, credit scores, because students feel like that's not spoken about enough in the classroom setting. I mean, obviously there's like financial literacy what?
Yeah, civics.
Huh?
Civics?
Civics,
Financial
yeah,
literacy.
but that's only like half the year. And
Not,
you'll-
not even. It's really a blip.
Yeah.
It's not much of a focus in civics and financial
there's
literacy.
other
We also have a business and personal finance class that
you have to choose to
you,
do.
yeah, it's an elective, and the students that we were talking to that day hadn't taken that class, so they couldn't speak to it. I've been in that class, and many of those topics are taken, so if, I know we're gonna talk about it later, but if financial literacy comes down the pike as a graduation requirement, I think we're in good shape with the business and personal finance class. It just, they definitely need more sections.
And that's pretty much what we spoke about last meeting.
Great. I love to hear students who are upset about not enough AP Physics, not running every year. This is a great problem to have. Thank you very much. Any student reports? Okay. Well, I hope you can stay for a little while because we are going to be talking about program of studies and would be very interested in your feedback on that. All right. Next on the agenda, we would like to recognize our November visionaries. The committee would like to recognize Zachary Cruz, academic, Isabel Gomes, empathetic, Bella Homel, resilient, Brennan Martins, independent, Audrey McNally, respectful, Moro Samito, independent, Maya Souza, digital citizen, and Claire Souza, digital citizen. Congratulations to those students, and thank you for your hard work. The next item on the agenda was recognition of our D2 state champion field hockey team. That is an item that we're going to move, I think, to our next meeting, as they are all busy playing other sports and doing things tonight. So we will definitely recognize them at a future meeting. The next item on the agenda is public input on topics of the agenda. Is there anyone for public input? Okay. Next on the agenda then, we have business and financial matters. First up, we have our November financial statement. Ms. Pellerin.
First up, I certification of free cash, E&D, or excess deficiencies, depending on what you'd like to refer to it as, and also the approval of our title grants. So we're waiting for those two things to be approved. With the titles, right now, until they are not approved, the title expenditures are charged to general fund. They will be adjusted once that's approved. With the approval of E&D, it may change slightly more of the special ed prepayment to the prior year, so we're still working with DOR on that. That being said, 87% of the budget is either expended or encumbered, which means will be spent, or committed to be spent. That leaves about 13%. We also, when we do our budget amendments, will be pulling in our other funds, so you'll have a chance to look at capital and our grant funding, and that'll be a good segue into budget.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions about the November FinStat?
No.
Okay, great. Thank you. Are we able to do an update on capital and stabilization, or?
We can talk a little bit about it. The part of the reporting excess and deficiencies is earmarking or reporting what is committed for capital projects. The superintendent and I talked briefly about during budgeting, discussing going forward budgeting for an operating budget and capital. So at this point, when we do a full report out on capital, you're going to see that the capital funds from last year that were carried over have been exhausted in the current year. Stabilization has either been exhausted or committed. So now you're working with excess and deficiencies. So we will be bringing that forward once certification does happen. We expect to have it by the next meeting. And we can discuss appropriations to replenish capital, stabilization, and also looking at where you are with excess and deficiencies.
Great. Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Moving along. The next item on the agenda is to discuss and act on the approval of a new student activity account for the class of 2029. And this is just standard.
It's just
Yeah.
with our freshman class, we need to establish a student activity account for that.
I would entertain a motion to approve the establishment of the class of 2029 student activity account.
So moved.
Sorry.
You
That's
can make
okay.
the motion, I'll second.
Right.
Motion by Mr. Pasternak and seconded by Ms. Ashley. Is there anything further on discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Thank you, everyone. Okay. Next on the agenda, under new business, we have our student achievement summary.
So tonight, we're going to take you through our presentation on our assessment data, and then, so Ms. Haskell will start with that, and then followed by the school improvement plan for the 25-26 school year. So tonight, we'll be talking about MCAS data, we'll be talking about our dual enrollment data, Project Lead the Way, post-secondary education statistics, advanced placement and SAT information, and then we will go into the school improvement plan. We have been using this quote for a few years. I went to NASCU, we all went to NASCU that year in 2023, and there was an excellent presenter. I kind of became a disciple of his. I really love to follow his work. His name's Ken Shelton. And he does a lot of work with data and connects it to technology, and especially AI. quote that really stuck with me, that behind every data point is a human, and behind every human is a story. So when we look at MCAS scores, when we look at AP scores, we have to remember, especially when we're dealing with students, that they're people, and they all have a story, and collectively we have a story. It's a different story every year, right? Because we're getting a different group of students in front of us. So I think it's important to keep that at the forefront of everything we talk about in this meeting, right? The meeting that we go to.
Yep, so we've seen this slide before, and but we always like to kind of take a look and remind everyone of what our priorities are. So, of course, the social, emotional, and overall wellness of our students, families, and educators continues to be one of our top priorities. When we talk about teaching and learning, we want to structure a flexible learning framework that provides access to all essential learning standards and an opportunity for deeper understanding. So we really want to ensure that the standards that we're spending our time on give students access, they're high leverage standards, and that we're also giving them the opportunity to have some voice and choice in the work that we do. Ensuring strong, grade appropriate instruction with just-in-time scaffolds, again, so that students have the supports that they need as they need it, and our ongoing commitment to learning, and that's why we're all here. We always like to include our vision of the graduate slide because this is really the core of the work that we do, and we're always going back to our vision of graduate. So our MCAS data, we're going to start with ELA. We've shared 2024 and 2025. When we take a look at our exceeds expectations and meeting expectations, we are at 58% for meeting and exceeding expectations, which is up slightly from last year. And you can see that the state meeting and exceeding expectations was at 51%, so we are quite a bit above that in terms of our ELA. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the work that we're doing related to the different subject areas as we move forward with the with our school improvement plan. Thank you. When we take a look at math, it was a slight decline in the meeting and exceeding expectations. We're at 50% for Somerset Berkeley, and the state is actually slightly lower than us at 45%. In terms of our science, just a reminder, we do physics first. So we have our physics students who take it as freshmen, and this data is actually not from this past year, it's from the year before. So again, just a reminder, so we are looking at a slight increase in terms of meeting and exceeding expectations at 54%, which is also quite a bit higher than the state, which was at 46%.
So unfortunately, it looks like some of this got cut off. You can't see that. You can't see all this data. But this is our data beyond the MCAS, going all the way back to 2021, dual enrollment, internships, excuse me, our Project Lead the Way programs, virtual high school students that went to 2-year colleges, 4-year colleges, trades. Then we have our SAT, which again, the SAT total got cut off, and the number of students in advanced placement. It's a lot of data, so if you make it any smaller, I think you can't read it anyway. So starting with the dual enrollment, currently we only have 3 students participating in dual enrollment, but something that you're going to see in my school improvement plan, and when we get to the program of studies a little bit, is we really have been doing a lot of work to promote dual enrollment, so stay tuned. Give me a little bit of time, and we'll talk about that a little later. Our internship program is steady right now. Where we are struggling right now, to be perfectly honest, and Stella referenced it before, students are looking for internships in trades. And we are struggling to find some partnerships with that because many of the apprenticeship programs, you need to have like a program of studies in the school. You have to have classes in the school in order to get those apprenticeships. Although we have done some personal partnerships with some community members who have said, you know, I have an auto mechanic shop and I will take an intern or two. And it started with a family member and it's continued, so they're like, we'll keep working with you. So we've made some partnerships there. We may be forming a partnership with National Grid, so we're expanding in those areas, but we do have a lot of students looking for that, so we're trying to fit the individual needs of the students that are interested in those programs. But this year we have internships, everything from auto mechanic to education. We still have our partnership with the fire department, so Melissa Andreessen is working very hard with those students. I'm proud to say, I mean, she's taken it a step beyond even what I started envisioning the program to be, which is the students now go to their internship, but once a week they meet with her, and she has developed like specialized curriculum for each student in an internship. So the education students are going through curriculum around becoming a teacher. She's actually formed students that are in business. She's formed a business curriculum. We have one student that is doing an internship at a bridal salon, and that person had curriculum. She had already taken an internship, so they each have their own little specialized curriculum that they do on Fridays. So that's, I think, really exciting. Our biomedical Project Lead the Way numbers continue to increase. Computer science is a work in progress, but again, when we get to talking about the program studies, I'll reference that again, but we're kind of trying to push that a little more. Virtual high school, again, we'll talk about that in a little bit. We'd like to pivot a little bit away from virtual high school and more towards dual enrollment opportunities moving forward. Although we will need to keep some slots for virtual high school because as you can see, especially this year, we have 9 students enrolled in virtual high school right now. 7 of those 9 are enrolled in AP classes. And the reason that they're enrolled in those AP classes is twofold. Some of them because we just don't offer the class here because we don't have enough interest. For example, in AP Music Theory, we have 2 or 3 kids every year who are looking for AP Music Theory. We can't run a class with 2 students in it. And we've had significant success with AP Music Theory. Students that are taking this class in virtual high school are scoring 4s and 5s consistently over the years. With that, we do have other students who are in those AP classes because they simply can't fit them into their schedule. But we do struggle a little bit with some of those classes because, as some of you know here, virtual high school, the teacher can be teaching from literally anywhere in the world. They could be in Guam and be teaching this class. And most of the classes are asynchronous, but we've run into some situations where some of them are synchronous and they want you to be online at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and our students are in English at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So it becomes a struggle, and the struggle's real, and sometimes the struggle happens after the withdrawal date, so then we have paid for the slot and the student like physically can't complete the class. So we've had a couple struggles with that. We've had great success with it too. So again, we kind of want to pivot away from that. We'll talk about that a little bit. You can see the college data, the trade school data, all of that obviously this year is still unknown. And then our advanced placement continues to be very strong. This year, they have not given out the recognition banners yet. We anticipate continuing with our status as a silver member school, but that one we won't find out until January 4th. So again, I think Dr. Scudover referenced this already at the beginning of the year. This is our AP data for 2025 last year. I'm really, really impressed and proud, particularly with the percentage at the bottom there, the total number of AP students with a 3 or better. We went from 75.56% in 2024 to 86.43% of the students that took AP exams scored a 3 or better, which equates to college credits. So I'm really, really impressed isn't even a strong enough word. I was totally excited about that. Any questions on any of that before we move to the school?
I have one question about internships. In Dr. Brailsford, in addition to the challenge of trying to find the appropriate sort of sponsoring organization or whatever, are there any other barriers like scheduling that make it particularly challenging to try to expand that?
So we've
that
been
we should-
really creative with the way that we use our schedule. We've also put some flex time in because, as many of you know, our schedule rotates. So when those periods meet at the beginning of the day, we give those students grace, so to speak, where they don't come in for those periods, but the expectation that we have is when they're meeting at the end of the day, their class time goes until 3:30 on certain days, so their day kind of gets pushed down rather than starts at 7:25 because businesses don't open at 7:25. We've been really creative in Aspen too. Mrs. Ashley, I'm going to call it the computer part of this. We have probably 10 different sections of internship because some students take 2 periods, some take 3, 4. I think 4 is the maximum. But we have been really, really creative with making sure that our schedule, which can be difficult for internships, is not a barrier to the internship process.
Thank you.
And that's where the Fridays came into being of the Friday curriculum, because that was the day that we struggled to fit that in. So, okay, there's a barrier. What are we going to do with that period? They actually have a course that they meet, and that's when they start putting their projects together that they'll present at the end of the year, which I hope you can all make because it's really, really awesome to see those presentations.
Just one other question about VHS, which I know maybe. So for students who are enrolled in that, they're scheduled into it in their schedule, even if it's asynchronous.
No, it's at the end of it's
Awesome.
on top of the 7 classes that they take during. Some of them work on it during study hall time because seniors have half a year of study hall.
That was my question: is do they do it? during
Some of them
study hall?
choose to take it on top of their class schedule as well.
But it goes on their transcript.
Yes, it does.
Not at this time.
Thank you.
So the school improvement plan this year, as always, comes from our district goals, which I believe we're in the last year of our 4 district goals. We'll be moving forward with that. But I always do link the school improvement plan to district goals. I also link the school improvement plan to the NEAS goals because while we're kind of in, can't remember right now what year we're in. We're like I think year 4 of our 10-year NEAS cycle, but we are always mindful of the work that we have to do for NEAS over the 10-year cycle. So I believe that the full school improvement plan was shared with all of you, and in that full school improvement plan, you can see the links to the plans and recommendations of that. But my school improvement goals this year really center around teaching and learning for all students. I think that it's a really important goal for the school to elevate teaching and learning for all students and really keeping a focus on all students. We just talked about all that awesome AP data and all that, but really a hyper-focus on teaching and learning across the board for every student to make sure that we have rigorous and equitable opportunities for all students in Somerset the Regional High School. So to that end, I think the goals this year are really, really focused on teaching and learning, and I know that you've heard us talking about our 3-year professional development pathway, but we're also in the end of that 3-year pathway, so we're focused on teaching and learning for all students. So the first goal is, to develop and implement engaging curriculum, high-quality instruction, authentic assessment practices that emphasize career, college, and post-secondary readiness by focusing on reading and writing across the curriculum and implementing a consistent writing rubric across all content areas. This came from the MCAS data that we've looked at over the last couple of years, and and where we really see deficiencies is in student writing. So particularly our English department sat down and looked at the AP writing rubric, and last year we developed the Somerset Berkeley writing rubric off of the AP writing rubric. And we did a lot of focus group areas with the entire faculty. We got into interdisciplinary groups. We looked at the writing rubric. I know I attached that in my school improvement plan. And we adopted that this year. And what the expectation is for all staff is that by June of this year, 100% of our faculty will be implementing the school-wide writing rubric at least 4 times over the course of the school year. And we will, at the end of this year, have a report on the, hopefully, increases in writing across the curriculum. And we've already seen some gains in that because our English department, I'm going to talk about that in a second, but our English department started using this writing rubric even before it was adopted last year. So we've already seen some increases in that. The English department has also really gone, they've taken a deep dive into assessing students and doing a lot of common assessments. So they started a baseline standards-based assessment right at the beginning of the year, and we're able to track that data as well. So we're doing a real concrete focus on reading and writing across all the departments, and the departments are implementing it in different ways, and those are some really good conversations that we had with the math department, with the science department. What does writing look like in all these areas? Because we write for different purposes in different places. So we've had really good conversations. There are some departments that are embedding the writing rubric in different ways. It may not be the entire writing rubric, but they've picked out pieces and focused on that. So by department, we will have a report out on the success of implementing the writing rubric this year. And then at the end of the year and the beginning of next year, we'll go back and maybe reassess, what we're doing, how we're doing, what the writing rubric looks like. We may need to make some tweaks because this is year 1. But that is the first goal. The second goal is to foster a collaborative and reflective school community by conducting classroom learning walks as both an administrative team and with teacher partners to observe, share, and learn from high-quality instructional practices across disciplines. And we've partnered with Blue Line to do this. So as part of our professional development, I looked for volunteer teachers and staff who are interested in creating their own professional practice SMART goal to do learning walks throughout the course of the year. And we meet with Heidi Vasquez, who we've partnered with through Blue Line, and she and I sat down and created a walkthrough checklist of what were we going to focus on and what were we going to look for. And we started with the administrative team, so myself, the central office team, and the principals from the Somerset Public Schools all got together at the beginning of this year, and we focused on as I think learning walk should, we focused on 2 standards from the teacher rubric. 1, active engagement in the real world, which is standard 2A2, and student ownership of learning. So that is our focus every time we do these informal learning walks. I mean, they're not observations or evaluatory in any way. It's just to see what's going on in the classrooms. And, the purpose of this is for the teachers to see best practices and to really see what's going on in each other's classrooms. And we've only done this, we did this once as a leadership team to get some baseline data. Then we did this as a teacher team with the school-based administrative team and the team of teachers. And when we all got back in the room after we did about an hour and a half of learning walks, it was a Friday morning, and at 9:30 everybody got back in the room and they were like, that was the best hour and a half of my week. Like, it was just so great to get into classrooms and to see what all the awesome things that were happening, and then kind of talk about what we saw and what great things are happening in our classrooms. And then our last one, and I kind of pivot on this one with all of the information coming out from the Department of Education. And, what do they say, work smarter, not harder, like we're doing this anyway. So the third one is to analyze the current graduation requirements and competence determinations and create a proposal and plan for adhering to the new Massachusetts competency determination standards for grades 9 through 12, as well as the Mass Core standards. You know, I've heard from you, I come to these meetings, we collaborate quite a bit, and I know that, you know, we're moving towards Mass Core. We have already adopted the math standards for, you know, our grades 9 and 10 students, I believe. I know we want to have more conversation about the world language, Mass Core standards. There is going to be talk in here in a few minutes about the new graduation requirements and financial literacy, so we need to do that. I've also heard you about the semester-based classes to give students more voice and choice in these classrooms. So my content coordinators and I are sitting down and we are forming a plan, not for next year because our program of studies, everything's kind of, we need to get going on this now so that we can have the students sign up for classes and schedules to go out, but 27, 28, the following year, we are going to be ready to do semester-based classes for students to give students more voice and choice and more opportunities for electives. The vision for that is grade 9 through 12 electives that are first-year courses will be open for semester-based opportunities, and then if students want to kind of hyper-focus, you know, I love TV media or I love ceramics and I want to take that advanced study, that would then remain a full-year class so they can really dive deep into that. And then in some of our other courses, like our music courses, for example, band, orchestra, we're trying to build the program anyway, and we don't want to lose students by making that a semester. We'd have like a semester 1 option, a semester 2. You could do a semester option, or you could choose to take it both semesters. There would be, so we're looking at those types of things. But when I met with my content coordinators, and I can share this with you if you are interested in it, there was a lengthy list of things we need to work out before we jump into this, you know, to the deep end of the pool with this. So we're excited about it. There's a lot of departments that are like, you know, let's go. Like, I can't wait to do this, but we want to make sure that we are doing this, like, go slow to go fast. We want to make sure that we're going to do this correctly, that it's going to work with student schedules, because we don't want to go backwards. Especially, I think you were here the last time we had this. We don't want to go back to those holes in those study halls. We want to make sure that we understand what we're doing. I have a meeting with the other principals in our SCC group on Thursday. I'm going to look to talk to some of the schools that do that so that we can get my scheduler, you know, Kim DeCudo, with their scheduler and make sure that she understands what's going on, because we also, you know, want to make sure that this works for everybody. 9 through 12. So that being said, I just started talking. Just really quickly, this was my point going back to the writing rubric. This is already some gains. But these are already gains that we've seen between 2024 and 2025 on the district percent possible points on some of these different areas that the English department is already seeing across the MCAS. The difference in the MCAS between 24 and 25 in these areas has already increased, just, we think, in part because we started using these standards last year. This is what I was talking about with the baseline data. So when we go back to talking about our walkthroughs, this was standard 2A2, and this was the data that we collected as our baseline data. So when Dr. Schoonover, Ms. Haskell, Ms. Ashton, I think, was there, and the principals from Somerset, this was what we saw when we were walking through classrooms. And again, nothing good or bad here, it's just what we saw, and then, okay, we're interested between the professional development, between the mindfulness, because we've also told our faculty, this is kind of what we're looking for in our professional development, has really been focused on this engagement and student-centered activities in classrooms. We're seeing a lot of gains here, so that's kind of exciting. This was just the other one, and then this is just a reminder of our graduation expectations for the competency determinations and the tiered approach. And we already talked about this, of the things that we need to get going on. In some capacity, we're not really sure where we're going with this yet. I think with the Department of Education, I think we're going to have more clear guidelines. But I do believe that wherever the Department of Education falls, there will be some competency determination around some type of proof of mastery of the math core subjects. And I do believe that we will be going towards some type of portfolio or project approach by the time the students are seniors. We've already got some plans in place with that. We'll be embedding MyCap and MIFA. We're going to use MIFA as our grounding place for our MyCap and our college and career readiness. And we've talked to them about the fact that they're even talking about creating a more personalized portfolio option for students. So we're hoping we can kind of put this all together. That is the first part of my presentation. And I think we're going to launch right into the program of studies after that. So.
Does anyone have any questions?
I don't have any questions. I would just say that, I think that obviously the students that you're receiving come from 2 different school districts. And I know at the Somerset side on the, pre-K through 8, we're working really hard toward improving student academic achievement. So I think that over the next several years, combined with what you're planning to do here, I think we're going to see some pretty significant increases in student achievement over the next few years. Really happy to see the rubric. That is something that we also discussed at the Somerset pre-K through 8. We can't expect students to meet an expectation unless we've clearly outlined what the expectation is. And I've not seen the rubric, but I would assume that the rubric clearly demonstrates what the expectation is for writing in any subject area. So, it makes me happy to see that.
I love when some of it overlaps too, because when I've been in walkthroughs, and I obviously have to do formal observations and all that, but I will hear teachers say, and I'll hear students say, referencing the writing rubric, and it's nice to hear that in various areas. It's not just in English. There's other teachers that are saying, talk about the writing rubric. Make sure you're looking at the writing rubric. So it's definitely taking shape.
Constant reminders of the expectations, yes. Right? I benefit from constant reminders, right? We're humans, so I think that's true of our students as well. Speaking of the observations, I'm happy to hear that teachers will be participating in that and getting out of their own subject matter as well, because when you're in elementary school and you teach multiple subjects, it's a little bit easier for you to be a little bit more fluid about your instructional practices. And I just know, from my experience in both elementary and high school levels, when you get into a certain subject matter and that's what you're teaching all day and you've been teaching that for years, sometimes you can get stuck in, well, this is how we do it in this subject. And it is good to see, oh, well, in this subject they're doing it this way, and how could I do something like that in my own classroom? And it's good to just get out of your classroom and see what else is happening.
And see different instructional practices, but also see the students in different areas
yes.
too, because unlike the K-8, particularly the middle school, we don't have that team approach. It's just not, I've never seen it possible in high school. If it exists, let me know. But we don't have that team approach. So seeing the students in different ways and how students learn differently, maybe with different instructional practices, and I can try that because students responding maybe to that, I haven't done that in classes. I think it's a huge benefit, and we have heard since the day we moved into this building that it's an isolating building, that the teachers get stuck in their own departments because we have our collaborative areas, we're kind of always in the same place, and So this was really an opportunity to kind of push people out of their comfort zone a little. And again, we only have done it once. We're going to do it again in January when we get back from the break. But the positivity of everybody returning after it was over was really nice. And again, it's not evaluatory. We actually created a norm. One of the first things we did was it's all about positivity and the good things happening in classes. We're very, very focused. It's not about anything bad. It's all about what are the awesome practices that are happening. And that is really nice to see.
May I? There's also a connection between our work with our professional learning, work with Throughline, and the student experience. And so as you look at kind of the areas of the standards that we're looking at in terms of those learning blocks, it's also, we are also measuring the student experience with teachers who are participating in the professional learning. And so that is one of the major indicators of our success in terms of professional development. Often we have professional development or professional learning, and then we ask the teachers, how do you think it went? So we're asking them, and we're asking kids. And so it really ties all of those pieces together, and we are all rowing in the same direction, and we're using those measures directly connected to kids.
So ironically, I don't even know if you know this, but this student experience survey that Ms. Haskell is talking about, we give it biannually. So we give it once midway through the year, and we give it once at the end of the year. And this is the 2.5-year point. In doing that tomorrow is the first survey. So we will be sending that out to students. We'll be getting that data. We'll have that data by the end of January. So we will see, and we have seen gains since we started our professional development pathways. We have seen gains in this survey with these particular indicators from the students. So even, it's great to ask the teachers, but it's not their diploma, it's the students' diploma, and we've seen gains there. So that's nice to report.
And teachers are asking for more data. We only do it with one period, with one group of students, and the students are doing the survey just in that class, so that we don't get kind of that assessment burnout. And the teachers are like, but I
We do it in all our classes.
I really like to know what everybody is thinking. So it really is a very impactful and effective means to measure for adults and for kids. So.
And again, when we're talking about all students, we disaggregate that data in various ways. We do it by grade levels, we do it by students with disabilities, we do it with gender, we do it with socioeconomic. So all of the data in Aspen, it's all anonymous, but we get the data in all those different ways, so we can make some decisions and see differences in student responses. And it's interesting, it's great data, but like I said, we've seen some areas where we need to grow, and we've seen some really great strides.
And it's causing us to, it's causing awareness and asking some questions about how we might be able to do it differently. And then we're back to kind of the walkthroughs and seeing how other people do things.
And where we're at the end of our professional development pathway, it's also springboarding us into, okay, what's the next pathway going to look like? Because now we need to refocus and give the next round of professional development opportunities.
The final point I wanted to make was about, I was really happy to hear you talk about, supporting all students. I think that a traditional college prep high school such as this one, it naturally lends itself to students who are intrinsically motivated by academics and doing well and getting good grades, and who already have plans to go to a 4-year college or a 2-year college. But trying to support students who don't necessarily have that mindset, don't necessarily see themselves going to college, and still trying to impress upon the fact that they can take these courses, they can take dual enrollment, and it's a very low risk place to try a college class, right? Like even looking back on my own high school experience, I told myself I couldn't cut it in AP, so I didn't take AP classes. And now as a grown-up, I'm looking back and I'm like, of course I could have done that. But, you know, look for those quiet kids who maybe have some confidence issues that are, you know, causing them to hold themselves back. Because I think all of our students can be successful in any program they choose here. And that will better prepare them for whatever they choose to do in the future. So those are my 2 cents. Thank you very much.
I would just add to that too, I think that I'm looking at the data on the slide 14 and seeing like 4-year college going seems pretty consistent, interest in the trades pretty consistent, at least over the past few years, but up a little bit. The 2-year college is where you see a little bit of a bump, right? I think when we talk about college, we have a much more expansive definition of what that means now, right? And that a 2-year college might not even mean a 2-year program, that there are programs, right, that are more lead to a certification that might be a 9-month or, you know, something shorter like that. So I think, and I'm so happy to hear sort of how you're framing it, that when we talk about preparing students, that we can do all those things. We can, if they're interested, because also students might say, I might want to be an electrician, but I also might want to, I could be interested in radiation technology, and I might want to go into business. So, and I think so we can, the work that you're doing means that we can prepare them for any of those doors that they might want to walk through. And we also recognize that, unlike people like me, students change careers, not just jobs, but actual careers so much more frequently, and I'm sure they will continue to do that. So the flexibility for them to be prepared for a whole host of options, but also change their mind and realize that one may lead to the other. So it's definitely not an either or proposition, and I'm happy to see, and I know we're going to talk about it in the program of studies, some adjustments in addition.
The 2-year college experience that, we talk about financial literacy, but when I was in the business and personal finance class a few weeks ago, students are choosing the 2-year college option because they're being financially literate. They have much more financial literacy than I did. It's a free option for some of those baseline classes, and they have every intention of transferring to the 4-year college, but they're going to get their gen ed studies, or maybe they're not really sure yet what they want to do. They know this is the option. So there was a student in that class that day that said, this class made me refocus, and I'm going to go to a community college and get the gen ed out of the way because I'm not really sure what I want to do. So there's multiple reasons why students are making the decisions that they make. And people change careers now 3, 4, 5 times. We are old, right? Like, we've all been in this work.
There's still time.
Maybe, yeah. Well, the girl that's in the bridal shop internship, I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Yep.
That's career. It sounds really fun.
Any other comments or questions? Anything from our students? Okay, great. Thank you. That's a great segue into the next, first we need an emotion, so, sorry, getting ahead of myself. I would entertain a motion to accept the school improvement plan as presented.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Ms. Ashley and seconded by Ms. Ferrer. Is there anything on discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Great segue into the next item on the agenda, which is the program of studies.
So this was not on my radar to present until very recently, so I'm going to take a second. I think I provided you with a copy that was highlighted in yellow, with all of the changes. So I'm going to hit the highlights here. The first one being, in the previous copy of the program of studies, we had a little blurb about it, and as you can see, the numbers weren't great, but we're pivoting a little bit, and Dr. Schoonover and I have spent some time meeting with UMass Dartmouth. We've also met with Bridgewater State University. That is not ready to go yet, but I do think that by next year's program of studies, we'll have some opportunities at Bridgewater State University as well, maybe even by the end of, for the the spring semester of next year. I'm not like, opposed to it, it just wasn't ready at this point. But we have partnered with UMass Dartmouth, and they are offering a reduced rate for dual enrollment of $540 for a 3-credit course. So what I am proposing whenever we start proposing budget options is to reduce our line of virtual high school and offer those opportunities in dual enrollment, so offering free dual enrollment opportunities to our students. Dr. Schoonover is anticipating a wonderful problem, which is that many students will take us up on this, and perhaps we will need to look at like a scholarship opportunity or an application process for this. I hope that's the problem that we have. Right now, I just kind of want to get students going on this a little bit. We also do anticipate having students creating some type of contract with the students to make sure that once they enroll and start participating in this, with the supports that we're going to offer them in the school, that they're going to complete the class, because something that we have seen in the past as an issue is they enroll in the class, then they either don't do the work or drop the class, and we've paid for the class, and there's no outcome. So we do anticipate kind of creating a contract and some support around the dual enrollment class, which is why you see it says it's free of charge if they successfully complete and pass the course. And then there is a link to the dual enrollment opportunities that we are partnering with UMass Dartmouth over. They are classes that are not in our program of studies, so they're classes that we do not offer at Somerset Berkeley. But I do think that they're really exciting opportunities. For example, there's an intro to criminal justice. So that's a really, I hear every year 3, 4, 5, sometimes more than that, students who are going to go major in criminal justice. This is an opportunity for them to get their feet wet there with the CJS 190. Microeconomics, macroeconomics, elementary French. We don't offer French currently at the school. They could take a French class. Climate science, obviously that's a kind of an up-and-coming, cutting-edge career path. Intro to philosophy. So you can scroll through there, but there are various, they actually suggested to us Principles of Sustainability was a class that they've had a lot of success with the dual enrollment opportunities. So those are the classes that we're going to offer next year. Then the SBRHS graduation requirements we changed based on the conversations we've had around math. Competency determination, we changed based on the last competency determination. We may need to pivot on that again after today's conversation, and that might need to be a link with all those charts because it's the internship isn't really different. I just highlighted it because we did change some of the wording, and those are the actual codes that we use. We're adding some elective opportunities in English that we have not offered up to this point, so film from page to screen and science fiction and mythology. Next year we are offering those obviously as full year options, but in the future for the following year we would anticipate reducing any of those electives, even the creative writing one that we offer in journalism, speech, and debate. We're talking about revamping that, but those are new electives. In social studies, this is in the program of studies last year. I just highlighted it because the offering this year, and it's the first time we're offering it, is the U.S. involvement in Iraq and Afghanistan is the elective in the special topics in history rotation that we do. So that is the one that's going to be offered next year for the first time. We're also adding advanced placement, business, and personal finance to our program of studies next year. We do anticipate in the history department in 2028, I can't believe we're getting that far into the 20s, also potentially offering an AP African American Studies class, so that Ms. Ferris went to some professional development on that at Stonewall College last week and brought us back some information, so that is anticipated for the following year. Business. going to math, we have added computer science classes to the fourth year math potential options that students can take for their fourth year in math. Obviously, they have to get the algebra, geometry, algebra 2 first, but that is going to be a fourth year option for students. And we are also offering a pre-algebra class. This would be for a select group of students who, over the past few years, we have a more significant number of students coming into our school with some math deficiencies, and we kind of track the data, and I don't want them coming into Somerset Berkeley having a negative freshman math experience. So we need to meet some of these students where they are. I highlighted this, and even the numeric code on this. This would not be a class that you could enroll into without permission from the math department head, recommendations potentially from middle school, things like that. You can see it doesn't meet the NCAA requirements. So, but there are a group of students that need some additional math foundational support, and this would be a class that would give them that, with the intention that sophomore, junior, and then senior year, they would move through algebra 1, geometry, and algebra 2. Again, we added computer science classes as math options, but only as fourth year math options. In science, we have oceanography and marine biology as options for a fourth year science class as well. We do have some students that are interested in that, so that came from student interest. Something that I'm really excited to announce in our technology classes is I was approached by Bristol Community College, and Bristol Community College is willing to create a partnership with us that if students take our TV media and advanced TV media course at Somerset Berkeley, that will be considered a successful completion of their COM, their Communication 157 class, which is their Intro to TV and Digital Production class. So our students will be able to go right into a practicum of advanced TV and digital production if they're attending that school. So that's a really nice option for our students. Spanish, if we go down, I'm on page 30 now, there's a Spanish 2 class that we are going to offer for the AP track from students that have taken Spanish at the middle school level or can test into that Spanish 2 class. And we are going to keep them together as a cohort of students, I hope, for 4 years, with the intention of them being ready to take AP Spanish by the time they are seniors. This class will be taught very differently than a Spanish 1 or even a Spanish 2 class, because we are going to be building off of what they are doing in 8th grade right now, or their own personal experience with Spanish. Not that they don't speak Spanish to them in Spanish 1 and Spanish 2 right now, but this will be full immersion Spanish speaking by the instructor, again with the intention of preparing this cohort of students for the AP Spanish, which we've never been able to offer at Somerset Berkeley. We've had very high success with it in our virtual high school program. There's always 1 or 2 kids that have taken it. We've never been able to get that cohort together, so we're hoping that we can get that cohort around. I think that's it.
Thank you. Noticing, questions, comments from anyone?
I have a question. So for the computer science fourth year math, would that be available to like say like juniors who had already taken algebra 1 in middle school and started geometry in the freshman year?
be available to them at any point, but it would also be for that option. Now, a student that was taking that, I would, as a student's guidance counselor, encourage them to take that computer science class and go into a pre-calculus or statistics class, but it is an option.
Questions?
I think that was sort of my question, like what if they took the computer science class, but prior to the senior year, would it still count as the 4th year of math, even though it was simultaneous? Okay.
I have some questions. Sorry. Sorry. I have a few questions about dual enrollment. I'm so happy to see this, first of all, let me say. I'm very happy to see this.
I'm still learning.
I think it's a great step in the right direction to give our kids more options and preparation. And as I think you said, it's a great place to try things out. Just a couple of questions about the logistics for the arrangement with UMass Dartmouth. So in this version, the agreement, if you will, would be for 15 students could take a course free of charge if they successfully complete it. So is that, like, if we had 15 students who wanted to take this one and this one, like, or is it 15 for the year?
15 seats.
15 seats, okay. Because it says to take the course. So if I were reading that, I might think,
15 for each course.
Yeah, on this,
at the top of page 5, so it sounds like we have 15 seats.
yes.
And they can be spread across any of the courses. Is that right? Okay. So I anticipate I would love for us to have the problem of what happens when we have 20, right? And there are obviously, I'm sure you've already thought about ways to address that. I would encourage us, I mean, and you know, that you can do a first come, first serve, whatever, but I would hope that we would also prioritize maybe some of our traditionally underrepresented students. So a student who might, you know, be a first generation college student, or a student who might be low income, or a student who might be in another demographic, thank you. Or maybe a student who hasn't ever taken an AP course, right? So that dual enrollment is, you know, you don't want to have your 15 spots go to somebody, you know, my son, you take all these APs, like that, you know, so that we would maybe prioritize those seats if there's more interest than 15 strategically to better serve some of those students. That's one comment. And then I wonder if there's conversation moving forward about even exploring like contract classes with UMass Dartmouth or Bridgewater. I know that can take a while to develop, but because at this point we're talking about, it's basically extra. It's in addition to a full course load that they're already taking. It's probably asynchronous. They will have a UMass Dartmouth transcript.
What I would love to get to the following year is this would be kind of where our study halls come from for seniors or even underclassmen at that point, because if we have the semester-based classes, if instead of study hall, we don't really need study hall now anywhere because we can enroll in classes, but if we're looking for an option, it would be your dual enrolling, and now you have that time in the library that's focused, that we're giving supports to our students on top of the supports that they're getting from UMass Dartmouth. It's another thing I like about UMass Dartmouth is that they want to partner with us, they'll be in communication with us. It won't just be kind of like virtual high school. We have a little conversation with the teacher, but not a lot. We'll be able to track the students' progress in the classes. So I agree with you, and I do think we need to sit down and come up with an application, so to speak, for I'm interested in doing this and I want one of the 15 spots. I also think we can offer as many spots as we want for $540 if a family wanted to pay for a dual enrollment class. I don't think that UMass Dartmouth would be opposed to that, but there's only so many seats, obviously, we're going to, as a district, be able to budget for. So I hope we have that problem, and we've already talked about like, creating an application. So when we do our signups in February, we'll know a little better, I think, of who's interested. And I don't know if you would suggest this, but I might suggest we put some kind of caveat on there may be, or there will be an application process just to cover ourselves. And if we could let everybody in if we don't have that problem, but if we do, just saying.
I think often the colleges themselves have an application, so it's not an unusual, so an additional component from us wouldn't be unusual. And I think moving toward even, because this could be 15 spots, but they're semesterized, obviously. So they could do this for fall or spring. I would love to put lots of pressure on our friends at UMass Dartmouth to look at partnering with us for contracting with courses, which can be really affordable. And so you can get the entire course, and you could have 20 students, for instance, like maybe a way to start ASL or something like that, a program that you want to get off the ground. So I think this is a great start, and I think it's something we can definitely build off of.
I think, just to jump in on that, I think it also offers a wonderful opportunity for some of the smaller schools around, some of Berkeley not or one of the larger high schools, but certainly compared to the urbans, we're not. But it might be difficult for us to purchase an entire class, but maybe our surrounding friends would also be interested in purchasing it together. Maybe it's something where several of us can team up and purchase classes for our students. In any schools that I've talked with, but there is some interest among some others to possibly do this.
That's great. I had a question about, I'm happy to see the AP additions as well. I think those are great.
I think that AP addition to it, and same before, but I think it hits a new demographic of students too, and I think it gives a nice option for a student in business and personal finances. It's different than a science class or maybe an English class, so I'm hoping that we hit a new group of students to try their first AP class with this business and personal finances.
And I think too, the 86% of passing score is so impressive. I mean, it's really impressive. And I commend obviously the students, but obviously their teachers that's a very high level passing rate. But I think also you temper that with, we want students to know that, and it's not an either or, but that it's okay to try it. And if they get a 1 or a 2, all the research suggests that they're still more likely to be successful in a college class just having had the experience, even if they don't capture the credit on the exam. And so I think some of the choices you mentioned about the business personal finance, some of the ones that the students mentioned, like human geo, some of those courses might entice students who might typically be a little hesitant to take in the African American history. So I like that mix because I think it does maybe might encourage some students to try it that haven't before. So I think that's really smart. I'm happy to see that.
It would be nice to offer courses too that we can begin introducing in students' first half of their high school experience, because right now it's there's a lot of competition between the junior and senior years for taking AP classes. There isn't really that much room left in their schedules to do so. So if we can begin to introduce some classes the sophomore year, in addition to what we already offer, or something like that, that would be I think the place where we have school to go.
Or you can start off in a dual enrollment early on and then move to an AP. So I think there's a lot of great options there. I have one question about, one technical housekeeping question is, I think, and we'll get to this when we talk about policy, but because the graduation requirements are also in the program of studies, I think we may want to include the verbiage of not just the 20 credits of math and 4 courses, but including one in the senior year, which is that is mass core, and I think that's our intention, but
I think the mass course one was 4 years of math, but the higher ed requirement is the 4th year of math and the senior year.
I think so.
Right, I think the intent, maybe it's something that we would add, the intent about adding the 4th year is to
If
ensure
it's-
that we have 4 years of math,
Right.
not 4 years of math.
So I think, we've talked about admissibility to like, you need pre-calc to get into Eisenberg, other things like that, but I also think if you have a gap of no math, even if a student is very accelerated, like I wouldn't recommend a student to double up on math their junior year and then not have math senior year, because now you have this big gap. So, we can talk about policy, but I think I would add that. That would be my preference. And then 2 other questions, sorry. For the Spanish, I'm so excited to see AP Spanish, a pathway to that. I think that's really important. I'm wondering, I think Somerset K-8 offers Spanish.
Brand new this year, yep.
Brand new, okay. Berkeley used to have it, and I believe we cut it. We had to cut everything else in Berkeley. But I'm wondering if also there would be maybe some specific outreach or targeting to like maybe some native speakers of,
That's what I mean about testing it, is that
Awesome.
there would be an option for students to place into the class as well, even if you haven't taken any.
They could do their own independent studies. So,
yeah, and that's great. And would that be something that you do? You talked about cohorting it, so you're talking about coming in as a freshman, like a placement, and then they would sort of be, okay.
Our vision for this, Mr. Gleason's really spearheading this, and what's been really nice is the teacher that is at Somerset Middle School right now came from us. Like, she was part of our department last year, and we have kept her a member of the department, so Mr. Gleason actually oversees her as the contact coordinator down there. So we've been in constant communication with her. She knows exactly what's happening at the high school, so we've kind of partnered with her, and she knows the expectation, but we're really kind of working on when these students get here, them being a couple, we're going to schedule them all in one class together, but leave room for that student that might transfer in from another school sophomore year and test into this class. And why prevent a student from an opportunity, right? But we have like a vision and a focus for this. There's going to be parent outreach, much like we do with the AP History program for freshmen. We want to do a little bit of outreach for parents so that they understand what this class is going to look like. Because it will be taught much like the AP US History program is, but for Spanish, so that we make sure that we get to the AP Spanish. So I think as long as the understanding is there, wherever they come from, wherever their background is, we would be given the option, which is why I believe it says something about your permission from the contact coordinator. So we would just kind of oversee it. So if that's not what it should be. Yeah, a prerequisite is the successful completion of Spanish 1 or placement test, student recommendation by grade 8 Spanish teacher and/or content coordinator. So there's the option for those two.
And and I know you do this anyway, but I think in that case too, the communication to, especially Berkeley, because there is no Spanish program there, that sending school to make sure that they're aware as they're registering, whatever, that they could elect to take that as through a placement, because they're not going to get a recommendation, right? Would be a thing we would want to make sure we communicate with Ms. Hebert and everyone else there. I'm sorry, I just have two questions. One for math, the pre-algebra, I think I absolutely hear what you say about filling that need, and we're confident that they would be able to still meet the competency determination, right? They'd still be able to get the 20 credits, and the sequence could get them to algebra 2, right?
That would be the expectation, is that
Okay.
it's algebra 2 is
Great. My last question is, or maybe a suggestion to think about, is for the electives that are being added, I know you said, you know, you want to sort of go fast to go slow in terms of introducing semesterized electives, but I wonder if those that are being added are going to be offered in the next year, in the fall, as full year courses? Is that the
The
intention?
only one that is going to be offered next year that's new is the potential for the oceanography and marine biology. But we did have some conversations today too that we want to make sure, and I know, I apologize, I wasn't at the last meeting, I think there was some conversation around this, with our half year, like the half year versus the full year class to meet the requirement. And the marine biology and oceanography, we're trying to give students another opportunity for that third year of science if they don't hit that by senior year. So the worry would be if we offer those as semester-based classes and only take one of them. You know, we need some kind of option for like the student that just wants to take the marine biology, just wants to take the oceanography, or needs to take both to hit that science requirement. So those are just things that, again, we're trying to work through all that. But many of these, like I said, the first year electives that we have right now, we would be looking for the following year to be making those semester-based, particularly like the art classes, and the history classes, the business classes, those types of things. I did also, like, there were a lot of questions that we had last week when we put this together, so we can talk a little offline on that. Give them.
So
But
like
we
the,
will have more of
Yeah.
a concrete plan for you over the course of the next few months. My fear, though, is if we were to do these semester-based classes next year, we're delaying this program of studies, we're delaying the scheduling process, we won't get to any of that until later. Whereas historically, we have scheduled all of our students by February vacation, we have a schedule ready to go, the students get their schedules going when we need to pay for Aspen. We need some kind of consultation as to how to do this because we are not prepared to create a schedule like that, so that there will be a significant cost of that.
so like this, the film course, the page to screen, that elective, and the science fiction, those are new to this program of studies? Those are new courses, new
So,
electives?
new but old. We put them in the program of studies last year. They didn't get enough people
Didn't
to
run.
sign
Oh,
up,
okay.
so
Got it. Okay. Okay.
they're new slash old.
Take two.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense to me. I was thinking that if we're adding in electives and they're going to be for a full year and then revert to a semester, I would say pull the Band-Aid off and use that as a, you know, you sort of figure out what some of the issues are as you move to some semesterization in the master schedule. So, but
Yeah, they were there. They just, we didn't. Creative writing ran for the first time this year, and then journalism, speech, and debate resurrected. Years ago, we had journalism, speech, and debate.
I think that once semester classes are in place, I think you're going to end up being able to run more electives more frequently because there's going to be so much more flexibility. Students can take double the electives that they currently take. So I think that'll help some of these classes that do have some interest, just they don't reach that threshold that justifies, you know, that course to run. And we understand the financial impact of running classes with only 2 or 3 kids, and we can't afford to do that, unfortunately. So, but still, we still want to support student choice and
There
voice.
just
And
will need to be understanding too that they have to pair up to something. We're not going to live in a world of study halls because we can't, because we need time on learning. And sometimes students struggle with these read-only offerings that back up to, you know, that first semester. So second semester, these are your options. And sometimes we love the options, and sometimes we don't love the options, and sometimes we have to live with some of the
What's
options.
available, yeah.
And, you know, in the middle of January, we can't be deciding again, oh, I don't like these classes, I want to change my classes. There's not a lot of wiggle room with that, so.
that's what college is like too,
Choices.
though, right? So,
but also
I
that
understand, but that is a culture shift
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
That is a
it will
definite
prepare
shift.
them for.
Yes.
But it'll knit together nicely too with an expansion of dual enrollment, because you can take a phone, and I think once students see the benefit of that, right? And then maybe that dual enrollment, as you mentioned, could be done in a study, even though it's not, that's when you're
I
getting
don't
it done.
think it would be considered study
Right.
anymore either, which I think is a really cool thing.
Right.
Because there would be time if
Right,
that
you
is-
put it in a catalog, so.
I'm excited about the dual enrollment. I think there's a lot of opportunity. I know you mentioned, collaborating, bringing them here, and the 20 students. With our internship program, I'd love to see like our education internship students also do enroll in an Ed 101 class so that they're already on their way to become educators, which we all know we need. So I think there's a lot. The more I learn about it, the more excited I am about it. I've heard Department of Education might be a little more amenable to early college opportunities for schools like us. So I'm hopeful that that is an opportunity that we might be able to participate in as well, because our teachers are very interested in that. They've been interested in that for years. It's just a matter of looking at
It also might be a great opportunity as well. You talked about students having interest in American Sign Language, which I think is such a great option. We have it at my school, but it can be very challenging to staff. But if you have a partnership with Bristol, UMass Dartmouth, Bridgewater, it might be a way to, either through dual enrollment or some sort of part-time arrangement, you can have that option for students here. And it is recognized, it is recognized by the Board of Higher Ed, does meet language requirement, and you sometimes see students flourish in that type of a language. It's also great. It's not just language, but also deaf culture. And there are lots of job opportunities there too. So, or perhaps our friends at the Collaborative might be good partners. So there's lots of, that could be an internship opportunity. So I think that the students identified a really great opportunity there too. And by moving in this direction, I think we'll be able to add things like that in a short amount of time that could really address those interests. So I'm glad you brought that up.
I'm sorry, they knocked me out of my Gmail, so I need to two-step
Timed
verify.
out. You've been working too many hours. This is what this tells me.
I was going through the last year before, there's an online ASL course, wasn't there?
Through virtuals.
Yeah. I don't know what kind of stuff it is. And I was like, kind of jealous of her, because I it's my first week back, and I was like, I'm not getting any of this. And she was like, look what I learned in ASL. I'm like, okay, I get it.
That's great. Sorry. Those are all my questions. So sorry. But great work. I'm so happy to see this. As you know, this is, I think it's great progress.
Very exciting.
No, she answered my questions while you were asking your questions, so yes.
All right.
You just covered all the bases
I
for
did.
us, Ms.
I
Sanders.
appreciate that.
Okay, let's see. I would then entertain a motion to approve the 26-27 program of studies as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Ashley and seconded by Ms. Ferrer. Anything further on discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Thank you so much. We had you present for a long time. Okay, next item on the agenda. Recap of November open house. You thought you were off the hook. And there's more.
They're taking the brunt of the work.
This is what happens when you miss a meeting, though, right?
It's almost winter break. We're almost there.
I only missed one meeting, right? All right, so open house. Open house is always a really fun night. We had at least 200 families here. I can't tell you that I took an exact count. We had at least 200 families here from Somerset, from Berkeley. For school choice, we had a lot of students this year. I know reach out to Ms. McCarl and myself saying, when's your open house? When's your open house? We had students from 7th grade here. So it's very interesting to see like the tide turning a little bit on, there's a lot of options now, right? So there's a lot of opportunity for students, and I think students are weighing their options. I applaud that. So Mr. DeMello, I will tell you, historically he's a fan favorite because he actually gives a homework assignment for the students. They come and they used to only have to take a picture with their periodic table or something outside the Performing Arts Center. He upped the game this year. They actually had to take a picture with the principal. So I have students running all over the building trying to find me. Once he wouldn't leave until he found me, it was like 7:35, and the mother came and she said, "Can you just take one more picture?" So kudos to Mr. DeMello for that. I don't even really know the guy. Yeah. He and Mrs. Heber made a homework assignment out of it. So students ask really good questions. I appreciate all my content coordinators, and then I do appreciate a lot of our elective teachers came to showcase the programming. We have the computer science club, the cyber club. Our art department, our fine arts department did an art gallery that night so that we showcased what we do in the fine and performing arts. The band was here playing. So I don't think there was one coach that didn't show up. So we really had a really nice, I always call it the choose your own adventure. Instead of doing the old school tours that we used to do, we offered that. We had probably 50 big buddies here willing to give either a small group or individual tours, but we also kind of opened it up to do what you want to do here. We gave we had the big buddy station. We gave everybody a map of the school, the room numbers, where everybody was located. And so for the student that, might have 3 older brothers here, and this is the 4th child, and maybe just needs to hit the highlights, or the parent who has a 4th child here and is really looking for what the opportunities are, all the content coordinators were here, answering questions. Griffey, the comfort office here, all our guidance counselors, and our social emotional learning staff were here. So it was a really nice overview, and we had a lot of positive comments. So it was a nice event. We did have some questions as to why it was so early. We felt like we needed to be competitive with the other schools that were out there. We used to do it at the end of January, but we moved it up to be more competitive with the other schools. So
That's smart. So those deadlines are now?
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you. No, thank you very much.
Okay. Next on the agenda, Thanksgiving football game. Dr. Schoonover, do you want to? Your turn.
So actually, last night, the Swansea School Committee met, and they had a similar item on their agenda. I'd say this started, Superintendent Holcomb, he and I have talked several times about this since he became the superintendent a little over a year and a half ago. And then we had a conversation right around this Thanksgiving, just expressing interest to bring back this traditional, highly valued game between our 2 communities. And from what I understand, in the Swansea community, there's, over the past 3 years, there's been maybe a growing sentiment that they want to also reestablish this tradition. So anyway, Superintendent Holcomb and I have talked. We are having a meeting later on this week, which will consist of a couple of our school committee members, Dr. Wellsford, Mr. Francis, and myself, along with our counterparts from Swansea case, and to really talk about bringing back this Thanksgiving football game for next year. So just wanted to share that with you, and we'll certainly update you after we have that meeting.
Thank you.
Grossman, anything you want to add to that? Okay.
Mr. Austin's really excited because
Is this set in stone? Mr. Austin needs to know, is this gonna definitely happen? Because we can't toy with people's emotions. People are very emotional about this, it's true.
It sounds like everyone is, I don't want to ever speak in certainties, I can't guarantee what another district is going to say, but we are certainly on board with this, and from my conversations with Superintendent Holcomb, so I am extremely optimistic that this will happen for us. And certainly, we also, Central High School has been a good partner for us for the past 3 years, and jumped in to fill a needed hole for us, and we certainly don't want to, we want to give them the same time and respect that, it was missing a few years ago with us. So, anyway, to your point, there's a lot of certainty, but probably I can't say a guarantee until we actually shake hands on that. Or
Mr. Pasternak has agreed to work with me to meet with later this week, so.
Excellent.
Cares a little bit about football, so.
Yes.
Just a little, yeah.
I was very dismayed when the Thanksgiving game went away, and I hope it can come back. But, speaking with Mr. Schoonover, I hope to, we as both committees and staff, have some diligent conversations about, not uprooting this whole thing without giving both communities the proper amount of time. Because when this happened 3 years ago,
It was
there was
abrupt.
a lot of drama, for lack of other word. I think in both schools, I think there were people at Case who didn't want it to happen, and certainly a lot of people here who didn't want it to happen. I'm personally friends with people who played football here, 30 years ago and had kids here, and we're looking forward to the continuation of this tradition, and unfortunately it didn't happen. But I think it's very important that we try to bring it back and, erase this small time where we didn't have this long-standing tradition, because I think tradition in football is a very, very good thing to have. So hopefully we can all come together and find some common ground, and common ground for the future too. So if it does depart down the road, it's a little more amicable than last time to everyone. So I think it will hopefully turn out well, without overpromising.
You'll be the first to know, George. Great, okay. Moving on, the next item on the agenda in the superintendent's report, first to discuss Massachusetts proposed graduation requirements.
So before I jump into that, if I can just give a few student shout-outs. This time of the year, we always have our senior and junior music festival announcements. So I just wanted to share Braden Worrell, violin, auditioned for and made the Southeastern Massachusetts Music Educator Association's junior district. We had 4 members make the senior music festival: Levi Raposo, who I believe is all-state, Benjamin Ontario, Patrick Curtis, and Vanessa Tavares. And for the first time, we had several winning compositions. Noah Jones, first place. We had 2 honorable mentions, Max Kelly and Connor Hayden. So congratulations to all of those students for their recent music accolades. On Friday, this past Friday, Dr. Bussard and I, we do every December as part of our South Coast Collaborative December meeting. We also, which this was a special one, it's always hosted, or in recent years it's been hosted in UMass Dartmouth. Each school gets to recognize its top students. So Dr. Bussard and I were accompanied by Braden Silva and his parents. And Braden at that time received the Galashaw Scholarship, a scholarship through the South Coast Educational Collaborative. Dr. share so many wonderful things about grading, gathering comments from his teachers and sharing those with everyone. So it was an incredible event to hear all of these students' stories from the 11 or so member districts of the South Coast Collaborative. And the week before that, Dr. Russell also recognized 65 of our seniors for the John and Abigail Adams scholarships. So that was, I think it was Friday, December 5th. So we had that recognition. So congratulations to all of those students. It's always a great time of the year where we tend to have some of these awards and recognition opportunities for students. All right, so now jumping into the graduation requirements. I shared some information with you in a memo. I will try to go through this quickly. I know we've had a lot of presentations tonight already, but just to provide an overview of the graduation requirements that were proposed on December 1st. And we knew that this was coming in December, and then all of a sudden on Monday, December 1st, I remember receiving a text from Dr. Brelsford in the morning saying, the governor is announcing the graduation requirements today, and it just came up so quickly. We knew it was going to be the first week or two of December, but not that, actually that day. So anyway, here we are 2 weeks later. The graduation requirements that they started with this really thorough 100-plus page document that the state provided. I believe I shared that with you. But the foundation for their work is the state issue of the graduate, which was released several months ago. And you can see those 6 items on the left, and I include the same image that we've already seen a couple of times tonight with the rater, vision of the graduate. And if you look at the Somerset Berkeley vision of the graduate and really the description under what it means to be resilient, what it means to be academic, you will see things like problem solving and effective communication and collaboration. And under digital citizenship, it sort of combines 2 of the state components here, self-aware navigators and the responsible global citizen. So there really is a pretty significant overlap between what the state is saying should be the basis of local school districts' visions of the graduate and what our own vision of the graduate is. And just as if you recall, the vision of the graduate, this started 5 years ago, 6 years ago, in winter of 2020, just prior to COVID. We had a community event and had lots of input from stakeholders who were there. And then everyone knows what happened a few months after that. But then later on that year, Dr. Brelsford had a number of focus groups with students, probably 100-plus easily, right?
150 students with faculty, parents, supervisor, council.
So going through that, almost that same process that we did with the community members back in January of 2020. And there was just a really tight alignment between what the adults were saying is this is what we expect from our graduates and what the students were saying. So anyway, that's where Raver, getting back to Massachusetts graduation requirements, there are essentially 6 main buckets, components to these graduation recommendations, and they are still just initial recommendations. The first one is really the coursework. So challenging coursework, program study, a couple of ways of demonstrating mastery. This is connected partly to the competency determination, but it would be through end of course exams as well as capstones and or portfolios. The My Career and Academic Plan, commonly known as MyCap, a FAFSA or NASFA completion, required completion of those, the financial literacy course that we've already talked about several times this evening, and seals of distinction. So just kind of walking through all of these, excuse me. So for the coursework, it's really aligning the high school coursework with what the requirements are to attend higher ed in Massachusetts. So it's aligning with the higher ed admission standards. Essentially what that means and what Desi and or the governor's office have called is MassCore Plus. So we've talked about MassCore. We know that up until now, the two areas where we've been short is not requiring 4 years of math. We've now checked that box, beginning with the class of 2028. 2 years of world language, which we've already referenced tonight. But then the plus comes in with this 1 year of art would be is a proposed requirement, as well as this financial literacy. Financial literacy is sort of in its own bucket, but would be a required course. So you find that in a couple of places here. So the impact, as I just said, we're already we will be aligned with the 4 years of math, beginning with our current sophomores. The world language requirement would need to be implemented. We currently have, I don't know the exact number, somewhere around 75% of our students, give or take, are already completing 2 years of the language, of the same language. So it's not a heavy lift, but there would be some changes there that we would need to phase in. Art, I don't know the numbers here, but to say that 1 year requirement for art depends on what the state defines as an art. I assume it would be performing arts, visual arts, music. I would assume anything under fine performing would satisfy that requirement. An overwhelming percentage of our students are completing 1 year of art already. I don't know what that exact percentage is, but that would be a heavy lift. As Isabella was saying earlier this evening, we already have financial literacy as coupled within that semester-based civics class. That class is more heavily weighted towards civics than it is financial literacy. Excuse me. So there would be we would need to do some work to ensure that financial literacy takes on a little bit more than what we currently do, and as well as waiting to figure out if the state is going to release financial literacy standards for which we would base the course on. Now there is a concern, and as you I think know, I'm on the Superintendent's Association's Executive Committee. I'm also on the association's graduation think tank, so we review this information prior to the release, and we've provided our own feedback, and I believe this was also addressed in the state's document from the governor's office, that there is a concern about having more requirements reduces students' opportunities for electives, which gets back to the importance of semester-based classes so that we can address the additional courses here while still maintaining the ability for students to personalize their coursework, to take classes that are of high interest to them, and to prepare themselves for the paths that they want after high school. Also requiring additional courses does make it more difficult for students to retake classes. That's what the state means by these setbacks. So if a student does not pass English 10, now they have to retake that along with junior English. That takes away the ability, so it just tightens the schedule. So there is that concern, but I think having the semester-based classes would help alleviate that as a primary concern. And of course, assessments. Governor Healy stated in her presentation that this would ultimately allow the state to phase out at least the grade 10 MCAS test. So there would be some state designed, administered, and assessed final exam. These would be in certain courses. The courses haven't been specifically identified yet, but I think the logical assumption would be freshman English, sophomore English, Algebra 1, geometry, a science, whether it's a standard science or they allow an intro to physics and chemistry and biology, and most likely U.S. history as well. So really those required classes that are not part of the competency determination. So anyway, so there would be these end of course exams to allow students to demonstrate their mastery. So eliminate MCAS, a single test, introduce a bunch of smaller exams.
Can I jump in with a question?
And I have the same question.
Have our friends considered that when students take the grade 10 ELA MCAS in March, right, that we don't get those results until the following fall? So if they're, first of all, it seems, sorry, I'm just going to editorialize, such a blatant end around the ballot question, first of all. Like, it's not even, that's clearly what they're trying to do here. They're also taking local control away, which, that's another problem. But I'm also like, how are they going to score these exams in time? Kids need transcripts. So how are you going to, you're going to give them an end of, I take Algebra 2 and I have to take this state test. How do I know when I pass? The next year? How does this, like, it seems the amount of time it takes for them to deliver results on one ELA test, one math test, and one science test is months and months. I'm sure you've all thought it. But I just want to say this, for those who are watching on television, that this is preposterous. And I have no idea how they're going to admit, how they're possibly going to hold schools responsible for this when they, sorry.
So there are lots of potential problems and concerns with this, and that is one of the ones, I wrote that in my feedback when I was completing the survey for the association. This was specifically addressed when the executive committee met with Commissioner Martinez last week. Because we know that, let's just say on the second to last day of school, the student takes the final exam that afternoon, that teacher needs to have that grade in the grade book before they leave for the summer 24 hours later. And we know, to your point, that the state has a pretty slow turnaround time on grade. So this needs an almost instantaneous result when the student hits submit. In order to do that, and I'm sure AI can help assess, but I don't know if that's the right thing that they should be doing, unless it is a multiple choice assessment. That is really the only way that when you click submit, like for instance, I took my MCPPO course recently, and at the end of the day, I took the test and I had my result instantaneously. It was a multiple choice test. We want to have students.
We've been making strides to go the other way, to have performance-based assessments. Our world language department, we talked about, there's an entire speaking portion to their final assessments to make sure that they can speak the language. And your questions were exactly what the content coordinators have been asking me. Is this in addition to a final exam? Is this integrated? Are we getting rid of final exams? Because you can't possibly put this on a transcript like what's happening. And I'm doing weird. I don't know, because this doesn't.
Sounds like a half-baked
And
plan,
it goes
but
against
it's not feasible.
the whole authentic assessment piece that we've really been trying to push.
Not feasible, and frankly, I mean, if our teachers are teaching the standards, right, and benchmarking exams are so much better, for assessing growth over the course of an exam. The whole point was to get away from how a student performs on one day. And now this does okay, I'm just my mind is upset. Just keep going. I could prefer.
No,
This
no,
makes
okay.
no. This
So-
is so bad.
We're all on the same page, so it's true.
So, on the next slide, just impact to SB. So we already have, and of course, assessments in place. So it is a practice that our teachers and our students are used to. I don't know what the impact would be on mid-year exams, which is another established practice here. But if the end of course exams are truly a comprehensive all the standards for the school year, what does that mean to someone like someone at Berkeley in terms of this being their exam schedule? And the concern was published on content. So the next component for demonstrating mastery is capstones and portfolios. And so this gets into that piece that we're just talking about. So this is where students get to really demonstrate the competencies and the skills, not necessarily the content. Content would be through the end of course exams, but then all those other skills that we know are probably more valuable to students than the content knowledge could be demonstrated through a capstone or a portfolio. This is just that culminating project, research paper, or performance that allows the students to demonstrate their learning and apply it in some authentic way. We here at Somerset Berkeley, yes. So we already have about 30%, this year, about 30% of our seniors are already involved in a capstone project. So we started implementing capstone projects through our English department 7 years ago. We currently have just about 50 students in this year, so 20% of our class. We have another 10% of our students taking a capstone class through Project Lead the Way. The medical interventions and biomedical innovation class is really a capstone class. So we also have where they're completing a research-based project with a theater presentation at the end of the school year. So anyway, so about 30% of our students are already fulfilling the capstone piece of it. We've talked about portfolios. I think we've talked about portfolios tonight, haven't we? Yes, we did, right? And when Dr. Russell was talking about MIFA and the conversations that we had with them about introducing a portfolio component to their MyCap software. It does, I came from a district where, and if you know, Rhode Island has for many years now, close to 20 years, has had a graduation requirement where there is a capstone component, whether it's senior projects or portfolios. I'm used to this. I've seen kids through a capstone project really excel, demonstrate what they've learned. I'm a huge proponent of that. But I've also seen when you have 200, 250 kids doing it, there's a significant staffing requirement or just oversight of that. It takes essentially a person to oversee and manage. If it's done well and you have mentors for these capstones, and kids may be doing some work through, not necessarily internship, but work with that mentor outside of school hours. And maybe if there is a portfolio component, there's a lot of coordination. So we talked about unfunded mandates before, so we don't know if this is happening. That would require some staffing, and is the state willing to support? Again, the other concern is about the software and management and storage of these portfolios. But with portfolios too, we also know the research, and I'm a big fan of John Hattie's research. The number one factor is student self-reported grades. That is the highest influencer on his list of all of the things that impact student learning. And it's not necessarily portfolios, but with self-reported grades, portfolios allow students to self-assess, to set goals. So there's a strong correlation between portfolios and self-reporting. So there is value to that as well, that we know benefits the students. This is kind of repeat what we've already talked about earlier, and just the note at the bottom, we're already looking to transition, we're already in the process of transition from Naviance to the MIFA product. I think the one that's resulted in the most immediate pushback anyway is the FAFSA requirement. It would require, or it would have, what they're saying is a simple opt-out process for families. But to require students to complete the FAFSA and to school department. Obviously, they can opt out, but then there are some families who also need the assistance and would value the assistance. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this. And again, what's the burden on our counselors to help coordinate this work? And why is it a high school responsibility, not a higher ed responsibility when it's so, there have been lots of questions with that. The last one, I glossed over financial literacy. Financial literacy is its own, but it's really the value of, I think that was the one through surveys with various stakeholders, the one that most people are saying, yes, we need our students to exit high school having a strong financial literacy background. With a financial literacy background, their improved credit scores, and all kinds of positive impacts on their adult lives. So we're already set, going down that path, and we will make some changes to enhance what we already offer. But the last one, the seals of distinction. The state right now offers a seal by literacy. They're looking to add several other seals of distinction for students who, to recognize students for achievement in attainment beyond or in specific areas. Some of the ones they've referenced are seals of digital literacy, an academic art seal for students in advanced placement courses, dual enrollment in college, a civic knowledge seal, and a career tech NCT seal for those students in Chapter 74 programs. So the timeline, by the end of June 2026, the final recommendations are supposed to be given to the governor and announced. I would say Commissioner Martinez shared with us last week that he expects to release more information to superintendents, hopefully in January. And one of the components that Deputy Commissioner Curtin, who was also there, was talking about the competency determination and sharing that, understanding that we're in the process. Every school district is approving the competency determinations last month and this month to meet the December 31st deadline. And we should know for how many years that CB requirement will be valid. In other words, for what class will these proposed graduation standards begin? And no specific time frame was referenced, but it appears that this wouldn't go into effect for students who are currently in high school. So we're looking at several years before the full implementation of this, but there's no guarantee to that. As we've already established tonight, you never know what the state is going to do, but at least that's the feeling, is that it's not going to happen. It's certainly not going to happen for next year's class or even the class after that. It could be maybe the current second or eighth graders, hopefully, if not even more than that. So let's see. Next steps. Well, we need to look at, regardless, I think we're going down the path of modern world language, having that 2-year requirement. So we'll look to develop an implementation on that. We'll discuss some changes in the MyCap structure, as well as creating those semester-based classes to allow that flexibility. So that really kind of sums up where we are right now. There's so much more information that needs to be shared. And I know the state's on the graduation council's on a tight time frame to have their work finalized over the next 6 months.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions on that right now?
Okay, next on the agenda, we have discussion on the artificial intelligence policy.
Dr. Grosser, I just got kicked out of
So the meeting's taking too long.
So I shared with you just a draft AI policy that we've created. We've had a team in place for actually a little over a year now. When we first went to, this is a team from Somerset and Somerset Berkeley. A group of us first went to a program at MIT for the Day of AI. And we started really working on surveying staff last spring, as well as trying to figure out what are the next steps that we should do in terms of, is it going to be a formal policy, more guidance for our staff and our students. So what we've done is we've used, excuse me, 2 weeks, I'm still trying to get over this. Using the AI guidance from DESE that was released this past summer to create our own policy. And what you have is that draft policy, and I think it was a really, I think it serves our purposes really well. And the teachers who are on the team, and we have teachers and administrators from both districts. But the sort of guiding principles section, it really lays out the foundation of why we're doing this work, why AI is both important to teach and learn, but also understanding why we need safeguards. So anyway, you have that policy. It's not for your consideration or approval just yet. I just wanted to share with you that I think right after the new year, the Joint Policy Committee will meet to review this and bring it to you in January for a first read.
Thank you. Any questions about that? Great. Next on the agenda under staffing updates.
Yeah, just one resignation. Actually, I would have 2 resignations to share with you. Our speech and language pathologist, Ms. Lawrence, as well as one of our paraprofessionals. Just for your reference.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Next on the agenda under policy, we have policy subcommittee report.
Guess that's me, because I'm the only one here. We had a meeting, which actually we'll be meeting again in January at our next. We had a new group that came to us that for international students that is interested in working with us, but we are going to take a look at the policy because there are some on there that we haven't used in years, so I think it's time to update it. So we were talking about maybe making some suggestion as to how long they would remain before we're looking at it again for new people. So, and then we just talked a little bit about the ones that are on here now. So, and the reason for our, which one is it? Somerset changed one, so that was one, public input, correct? Yeah. That's one of the reasons that's on there. Somerset changed theirs, we did not change ours, so it's just taking Somerset Public Schools out of ours and leaving it as just Somerset Berkeley. But I don't know if anybody has questions on anything in particular, but.
Okay, if not, then why don't we, we can take the first readings together, so I would entertain a motion to approve the first reading of the following policies. School food and nutrition, meal modifications, policy EFBA, this is new. Homeschooling, policy IHBG, this is an amendment. And policy IKF, graduation requirements, which is just a short edit and amendment.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pasternak, seconded by Ms. Ashley. Anything on discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. Thank you. Next on the agenda, policies for a second reading, we have the competency determination, which is an amendment, and public participation. So no, public participation is amended just to basically take Somerset out. Can I just ask a clarifying question on competency determination? Because I feel like I don't understand something, so. So today, according to DESI. So for competency determination, we are permitted to use MCAS, but it can't be the sole determinant, and that's why we have this? Or we are not permitted to use it?
We can, but it is not the primary.
So if I'm a student, if I take grade 10, like say now, current sophomores, and I take my grade 10 ELA and math, and I get exceeding expectations on both, then is that competency determination, or it's that and the coursework?
They have to have passed the class.
They have to pass the class.
They should have already passed the first final assessment, so then the MCAS wouldn't matter. But if we haven't, by the time they graduate and hit the final examination, competency determination, the MCAS would be the backup plan. It's like the secondary.
So if we look at it in terms of the timeline of events, is how they actually happened. And let's take a freshman taking Algebra 1 who will then take geometry as a sophomore. They're not taking the MCAS until spring of their sophomore year, not getting the results that we just established until months later. They're not finding out until fall of their junior year, say. But they will have, that student will have taken Algebra 1 in grade 9, taken a final exam at the end of grade 9. If they pass the course and pass the final exam, they've achieved competency determination for Algebra 1. Then they take, as a sophomore, geometry. If they pass the course and pass the final exam, now at this point, they just took MCAS like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, but those results are still down the road. So if they pass the course and pass the final exam, they've achieved their competency determination for math totally by having the Algebra 1 and the geometry. We've also established, or we will be establishing a portfolio. So if a student, for some reason in that geometry class, does not pass the final exam, if they've also maintained or they can demonstrate what they've learned through the year, then that portfolio component will also be a factor in determining if they've met that if they've mastered the course. Now, even now we get the MCAS results coming out. If for some reason a student was able to meet the expectations for geometry or for math in general, but did not meet one of those other expectations through all the safety nets that we have and demonstrations, then that MCAS can come in and play a supporting role to say, okay, well, you weren't successful for whatever reason on the final exam that we offered, or the portfolio, but you were able to do so on the MCAS, you met the standard there, then the MCAS score can come in. So it's otherwise a student, if they wanted to, maybe to your point, take the final exam, not do a portfolio, do all of that, and then also wait till the fall of their junior year when they get their MCAS results, if they met the standard by the process that we have established here, the MCAS, their performance on MCAS would satisfy, but all these other things should have happened already.
So it turns it on its head. Before you MCAS, you'd check the box, and then if you needed to figure out waivers or something. Okay.
Did I miss anything with? Okay. Sure.
I think so. I don't have all the charts in front of me.
And
My understanding is you can take MCAS off the table completely. I just think it's a good idea to keep it as like the final backup plan
Sure.
of everything else. It also helps us show the students the importance of continuing to show up, take the MCAS. So, it's a reason, it's your backup plan, it's your safety. It became a safety net, which is kind of
Which is-
interesting
okay.
way to put it, but.
And it's more for the kids who have already taken their the Algebra 1 and Geometry. So it's almost like a temporary safety net.
Right.
Because we can't go back, for a junior or senior now, we can't go back to their freshman year or even their 8th grade year when they took Algebra 1 and say, well, how did you do on that final exam 3 years ago? And we also weren't doing portfolios 3 years ago. So for a student like that, if they did not pass a final, or even here, we can't, we have a record that shows they were not successful in the final exam, but they ultimately passed MCAS, then, you know, we can insert that in and say, well, we've demonstrated mastery that way.
Thank you for clarifying that. So, because I think a lot of students, there are a lot of students who would meet expectations on MCAS and might have a bad day on a final, or we all know kids sometimes do the math. I only need to get this on a final, and they're taking 5 of them, right? So, because they're also taking finals in not these subjects, you know, they're taking finals in other subjects. So it just seems, again, like this is a whole lot of work for, I don't get the point of this, because if the backup plan is MCAS, anyway, it's like, instead you could say 70% of our kids met this, we're all set, let's focus our energies, our resources and our time on the students that we know need that support, maybe the kids who aren't meeting our expectations on MCAS. Instead, it's all this up front. It just makes no sense to me. Sorry, I'm going to stop now. But thank you for clarifying. So
the entire senior class has met the competency determination in one way or the other based on the criteria.
but the districts are still going to be, the MCAS is still going to be used for district accountability.
Of course.
Okay, I'm just cranky tonight.
It's okay, get it all out. We're airing our grievances. It's
Festivus.
Festivus.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying that, because I appreciate it.
Is it clear?
I mean-
We make sure, we want to support students through this process, and we do our best to make sure that kids are earning their diplomas, and however we can support them and provide them the necessary structures along the way, we thought that after looking at the data, not just the senior class, but also our juniors, that this was the best model. So it is not necessarily like the top, it is not the first factor we're looking at, but it does come in secondarily.
No, I think it's great. I think it's really as thorough and thoughtful as you can be, given,
The circumstances, the
Yeah.
crazy circumstances.
yeah.
Dr. Rosford consulted with someone from the Secretary's office, right? Making sure that what we were planning was, met their standards or approval, which it did.
And the only backup, you would not have a backup for US history because there is no MCAS backup, so that would have to be portfolio.
But the nice thing is that all of our juniors are in civics, so that project now becomes really important, but is the backup plan for the final exams not being, one of those 2 final exams not being passed.
Thank you for all your
But
work on
again,
that.
going back to over time, the collection of all this and the maintenance of all this is a significant, struggle. So we need a way, we painstakingly, student by student in the senior class, went through every student and made sure that they hit the criteria. You don't want to make a mistake. Now, we painstakingly did it and double-checked it. We have not made a mistake with the senior class. I'm confident in that. But over time, over 900 plus students, we need a way to monitor this.
Right. And you worry that an unintended consequence of this is going to be further narrowing the curriculum, because you're going to be forced to devote so many resources to English, math, and science, and US history, which are all important. But then what inevitably happens, especially in a world where budgets are tight, then, okay, all the electives that we want to give students more access and choice to, and all the work you're doing there, at some point, choices have to be made, unfortunately. So I really hope they'll reconsider a lot of this, because I think it's going to have a detrimental effect on that. So,
If I may, with this, and the reason why I have this on the screen, I put this updated policy, and I don't, do you have it in your folder where it says second read? I put it in a day or two ago, and I don't know, I just looked at it and I did not see it, so I don't know what happened to it. But the first read document that you have in there has some yellow highlighted areas where we needed to do some work. What is on the screen has some of those changes, so if I can just kind of walk you through it, if that's okay. Under the aligned courses section here. I started listing all of the courses. To provide for flexibility, instead I put a reference that the aligned courses will be in the program of studies. So you approve the program of studies, we'll maintain the courses there that satisfy math, English, science, so on. So that was one change. And then there were two highlighted sections. I think about, there was the appeals process, and I thought there was another one as well. So I made sure to have, under the additional considerations, we have language about students with disabilities, our English learners, our late enrollment students. I think this may have been one of them, where it's really this transcript review that's done by the high school, which is already a practice that happens here. There's an appeals process that is required in this policy for current students if they feel like they met the competency determination. So it's just trying to put in that students or their guardians can appeal it to the principal. The principal will review the transcript and coursework evidence. Principal will gather information from the necessary adults in the building, and then just to put a time frame around this, that the principal will issue the final decision within 30 days. And then we also needed the appeals process for students who graduated between 2003 and 2024, and it's essentially just notifying us that they feel, they believe that they did not receive a diploma solely for the purpose of not meeting MCAS standards, so we can review transcripts, excuse me, and then award a diploma if they meet the criteria. That's also challenging to do, to go back and understand exactly from 20 years ago what a course was if we don't have the course descriptions, knowing what they involved. So there has to be some flexibility with that as well. But I think those last two things were the areas that we needed to add between the first and second reads.
anyone have any questions? You comfortable voting on that, based on that?
Yes.
Okay. In that case, I would entertain a motion to approve the following policies on the second reading. Competency determination policy IKFE as presented, and public participation at school committee meetings policy BEDH.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Ashley, seconded by Ms. Ferrera. Anything further on discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda, updates. I have nothing from Berkeley, so anybody, Somerset?
Yep. So at our last meeting, we had several presentations. Probably the most significant presentation was our student assessment update and the presentation of our school improvement plans for our elementary schools. We had previously approved our middle school improvement plan, but we did get a little refresher on that as well. So we spent a lot of time, rightfully so, on that. And I will leave it at that.
All right.
How's that? Sound good?
That's great, that sounds great.
Like it.
Next on the agenda, topics not anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance of the meeting. I have none. Action items for future meetings, in addition to what we discussed. I think we have plenty. Okay, great. If anything comes up, send them to Robin. Next on the agenda, to consider approval of the minutes. Is everyone okay if we take them together?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the open and joint open session minutes of November 18th, 2025 as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Ashley, seconded by Mr. Pasternak. Anything further on discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. I said aye. And then, next I would entertain a motion to approve the joint executive session minutes of November 18th, 2025 as presented and to release them with redactions.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Ashley, seconded by Mr. Pasternak. Anything further on discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so voted. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.